Hello, all you crazy cats and kittens out there in pod person land. Welcome back to another episode of For the Love of Movies. I'm Sean Faw, and today we're going to be talking about The Waterman. Yeah, The Waterman. So this thing is basically a Lifetime movie version of Stranger Things with all the weird tonality that implies. I had no idea what this thing was going in, but as soon as I saw that Harpo logo come up, I knew it was going to be a mess, and I was not at all wrong. This thing is not sure if it wants to be a super ham-fisted family drama or a whimsical Goonies-type kids' adventure movie. And then it also has this weird fantasy element to it that is pretty much just the Aha Take On Me music video from the 80s, with really none of the charm or innovativeness that made that thing a classic.
The Waterman is real. Legend has it that he's still living up by the lake, searching the waters and the woods for his wife, so he could bring her back from the dead.
The family stuff is all very dour and centers around the mother getting progressively sicker. But also I think this movie happened over the course of a week or maybe a month, and the time frames for her deterioration just doesn't seem to make sense in hindsight. But I guess that's kind of the least of the problems with this thing. And these scenes specifically were just too slow and dark and overly depressing in general.
This town is weird.
It's just different here than what we're used to.
Yeah, real different.
I know this move's been hard for you. It's been hard for your dad, too. He's just stressed about me.
Then we get to the kids on an adventure stuff, and that is probably the best parts, even though they are pretty lame themselves. The big obstacles and moments of tension are weak at best, consisting mostly of bugs falling on them and crossing a log over a stream. Now, these moments are all just turned up to 11 with intense music and fast-paced editing that all really just amounts to a couple of kids shocked that there's bugs in the forest.
Run!
Hope is a powerful force. It made you see
Gunner!
what you wanted.
Now, the acting was all pretty decent, and probably the saving grace and the downfall of this thing at the same time. The people were all noticeably too good for this thing as they walked around poorly lit empty rooms that feel like so many student films. Despite having little to work with and being written completely inconsistently, I thought they all did a really good job with what they had. It's just what they had was not much, and that mismatch in and of itself is just distracting. Worse actors may have actually made everything else seem less crappy.
I always thought the Waterman was just something grown-ups told kids to keep him from sneaking off into the woods. No one knows where to find him. No one except me.
Now, visually, it was 2 or 3 or 4 different movies as well. The indoor family stuff was all dark and mostly just plain and uninteresting. Then there's the exteriors for the adventure stuff, and they were all bright and stylized, more like a fun, cheery romp. But then there's the Take On Me animation shit, and that is almost cool at first since it is part of the kid's character that he is making a comic book, but then that all just quickly becomes cheesy as hell and just felt like unrelated filler content.
The note I saw in this book says that he's immortal. I need to know more about it.
Got any money?
Yes, but I'm still gonna need money to buy supplies.
Supplies for what?
I'm going to find the Waterman.
Come into my office.
And during the end credits, we actually get to see the comic the kid was working on, and all I can really say is, fuck that kid. That comic is absolutely shit, especially when you take into account the fact that they set up this kid as like the smartest kid in the world, and he's writing the most interesting story ever. And then we finally see the book that he's working on, and it's like what an adult would think the average 5-year-old would write as a story. It's just like, what the fuck? It's not even consistent with the character that you created. But either way, this whole thing is just infuriatingly inconsistent. It's full of setups with either no or incredibly shitty and lame payoffs, and the characters are all over the place, and most of them seem to randomly flip motivations and perspectives from scene to scene.
I just want to know if the Waterman is real.
But that forest is alive. Being in those woods all alone, no chance to escape.
I know how to make you better. Do you know what he meant by that?
There's some weird stuff going on.
Now, the blatant member berries are pretty minimal, but they are disgustingly tacky about shoving them in your face, like the full screen shot of his E.T. lunchbox. Remember E.T.? That was a good movie, right? Never mind the fact that it's a 40-year-old movie that this kid has obviously never seen. Just shove in a reference from classic cinema and people will be like, oh yeah, I like E.T. This movie must be like E.T. It's not. And no matter how many times you remind us of better movies than yours, it's not going to make your movie any better. This isn't Inception, and The Secret doesn't work.
I'm gonna find it. It made you see.
Overall, I would say this movie is completely skippable. You probably haven't heard of it anyway, and I assume it just slips into the purgatory of deep Netflix. So that's probably a better fate than it deserves anyway. Well, this has been For the Love of Movies. I'm Sean Faw. Thanks for joining us. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, do all that stuff. Comment in the thing. Tell me what I should watch next. Check out all the other stuff. Go over to fawcast.com and check out the other shows and the podcast and the audio stuff and all the other things we do. Yeah, that's good. Later. Bye.
One, two, three, four. Close your windows, lock your door. 'Cause you never know for sure who it is he's coming for.